It's great. I am.
Good to see you again.
Oh, it's really nice to see you as well. I don't think you've changed at all. Your beard has changed slightly, but it suits you.
I've been in the don't see the hairdresser COVID response thing.
Yes.
Keeping it natural.
Well, I'm sort of right there. I just keep cutting my own bangs, you know. And,
oh, that's good. Yeah.
I figure that's that. I was actually on your website looking to try to remember where all your vineyards were, and then I thought the man's there; he'll tell you where they are. But it was only one that's sort of outlier. The Engles are off. They're not on Old Mission, right?
Right, and in the Blaufrankisch, we have Benzie County as well. So.
Ah, cool. What will be the tasting order? And,
are you actually? Are you on the 18 Blaufrankisch or the 17?
I'm on the 18. Benzie
Perfect.
County 63%. Grand Traverse County 37%.
Yep.
And you know what? I just poured them because I wanted to taste them with you. So I don't know if you've got the wines in front of you or not, but
I do.
Cool. I want to make sure I'm letting everybody in. Admit all. All righty, here we go.
I think Amanda might be joining us.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, I ran into her just about an hour ago, and so.
That's great. I wonder if I'm going to unmute everyone just for a minute to say hi. Is that okay with you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't do anything to the, you know, the slides, so that you know, no surprises there.
All right.
But I did think of a question, because it's I like to specialize in the dumb questions, because then I can ask them and other people don't have to worry about asking them. Do you make any Pinot Noir?
No. Well, no.
Not a stupid question then. Okay.
I swore off Pinot Noir in 2006. We do make a Brut Rosé for Bowers Harbor, and I'm looking at Pinot for our sparkling program as well, but we're not making it. And you know what?
Is your sparkling wine available downstate? Because I haven't tasted any.
It's available on kind of special order.
Okay.
Yeah, it's we've only made, you know, last batch was 1,500 bottles, but we're growing it, and so yeah, I want to have it start becoming available. So.
Is it Méthode Classique champagne process?
Yes. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, I'd love to taste it.
We just released the 17, so it was about 2.5 years in tirage, and it's Blanc de Blanc, Chardonnay, and
cool.
Grown. We have 2 dedicated vineyards for sparkling production. So yeah, we're all in.
So. I'm sorry. You said Pinot. I was watching the room here. What grapes are you using?
Right now, just Chardonnay.
Just Chardonnay. Cool. I'm going to unmute everyone real quick. And hi, everybody. I just unmuted you so we can say hi, as I promised, as you gather. I'm so happy. You know what? We've got a lot of very friendly faces here tonight, Brian, because most of the people on this evening are guests I know from doing events in person at the West Bloomfield Plum Market in Ann Arbor North Campus, and I miss them all terribly. Hi, Norm.
Hi, Madeline. How are you?
I'm just thrilled that my background came out well. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, everyone.
I had no idea
you were
going to be in the vineyard. So.
Well, you know, you identified the vineyard. That's what.
Where's that wine?
Wine's in the fridge.
Robin, did you see my answer in the chat room? I gave
no, but I will look at it just a second.
Okay. No, I didn't know if you saw it, because I actually put it on before you asked the question.
Not in the chat. It's not in the chat.
I said from me to everyone. I'll try again.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I had it here. I can see it. That's really weird. All righty. Let me try that again.
In order was the question.
All righty. There it is. Can you see it now?
Now it's here. Yeah.
Yay. All righty. Maybe because I hadn't admitted you. It's some Zoom fine point, you know. Way beyond me.
The Riesling is last.
Oh.
We started wrong.
No, there's no wrong, but Brian and I talked about this. And both of us are of sort of well, I'm older than you are, but I'm going to say
In the
that
Luthier.
if it's a little steep, you put it at the end, right?
Put this back in the refrigerator for now. We can have it again later. There's enough.
You know, I have to tell you guys while we're waiting, let me mute you all just for 1 sec, because something new allowed the participants to unmute themselves. Yes. So now I've set it so you can unmute yourself when you want to say something, but just we cut down the chatter. You know, I'm a big fan of private preserve. Well, I've been doing these tastings now for what? Going on 4 months. And when I'm religious about it and I put the wine in the fridge, literally I've been tasting wines a month and a half later. And they're like in suspended animation if I do it right, if the cork is good. But the guy just came out with something new. It's called Private Preserve. And I tried it on sparkling wine and it works. Brian, can I hook you up with this guy from Private Preserve, Scott?
Sure. We've actually used Private Reserve in our tasting room often. And then it's the same stuff we use in our wine tanks when we have not quite a full tank.
Great.
That's how we approach the preservation. So.
But have you tried his sparkling wine?
No, I have not.
He just came out with it. And I thought, no way. But I tried it on a bottle of Raventos. You know, the super cava people who don't want to be called cava. And I went back to it a month later. Guess what? All the pressure was in there, but I used a very good closure, you know, so I think that's the
some are better than others for sure.
Some are better than others, absolutely. What are you drinking while you're sitting there, Brian?
I am tasting the Pinot Blanc and getting my bearings, so.
Okay, good, then I'll taste it too. I'm trying to admit everyone as we go along. My team has tried to counsel me on how to work this. So
I really admire that you're getting it done because I have failed my couple attempts. So I always have a team around me making it happen. But.
No, they're lurking in the background, right?
Good.
And I think they've quasi given up on me. But they're
letting you fly.
Well, they're letting me crawl. I'm supposed to do something on whatchamacallit, Instagram, live Instagram on Wednesday. And they gently suggested I do it at the office because they didn't trust me to try to get on. Cheers to you, Brian, and to everyone. I'm gonna, let me see. 2 people are waiting. All righty. I'm unmuting everyone just for a second. Hopefully you don't have any barking dogs in the background. It's very nice to see you all. Did I see Yasmina was back there, and I see Dave and the Lewises.
I miss you, Madeline.
And Terry, hello.
Oh, what's it? I've forgotten the name.
Yes, Robin.
Meat, yes. What's his name? What's the reason?
Oh, no.
As I told you, Brian, I promised we would do this casual style.
The only way I know.
This is Madeline Trefon.
Yeah. Oops, sorry. Someone was trying to say something and I cut you off. Waiting. We'll probably start in about just 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, how do I admit this person? There we go.
That's me.
Brian, we've been doing a lot of these webinar style when it's, especially when they're from Europe and the connection's dicey and there are a lot of people on and they've got a big PowerPoint to show. So we haven't been able to, see each other and chat like this. So this is a little bit more casual than what we've been doing, which I think is cozier. Are you in the tasting room? Where are you?
I'm actually in our warehouse office. Our tasting room, fortunately, is very full, and we just opened our barrel room up to the public for reserve tastings, and that's full as well. So there's a lot of happy noise around the winery. So I decided to cut out to the warehouse where it's just me and the wine and nice and quiet. So figured that would work really well for this one.
The Pinot Blanc's drinking like an angel, by the way.
Yeah, I'm happy with this. This is, it's nice when they have a little time to be in the bottle.
Mm.
And not just, sometimes as a young winery, you're releasing wines because you have to. And we've been growing. We're old enough now that we're able to hold things a little bit and have them out, a little bit more in their, when they've had time to settle down.
It's fulfilling for me to hear you say that, because as a taster buyer, when things are whites are first released, I'm always thinking, gee, 2 to 6 months would do them some good, just a little bit of time, and it makes a difference. And obviously a year, also the Luthiers, pretty neat stuff. I just tasted it. Whoa.
All of these actually are in a spot where, when we bottle them, we are hoping they get to at that point, that you're always trying to look forward, be like, oh yeah, wait till you taste this. And like you just said, 6 months or 8 months or 10 months or 12, or whatever. And so it's fun to actually have them in the point, and these being the active wines that are actually available. So, and I think we're going to find that all of them also have a long future. So there's room to grow too.
There's a very important, serious question that's already come up in the chat room. Do you moonlight as a drummer?
Actually, I don't, but we do use this office as a practice studio. One of our growers, Tom Reehorst, is a drummer, and I play guitar, and Wes plays bass. And so we try every once in a while to get over here and make some noise where nobody can critique.
That's great. Well, it's a good way for you to sort of disconnect and reconnect to something.
Make some noise. It's always
good. Makes the noise is always good. We've got 26 people on, so I think we should sort of officially start. So I'm going to welcome everyone, and then we can just go ahead and have our chat, and hopefully we'll remind each other if we forget to say something. But before I forget, I want to thank you so much for doing this, Bryan. It means the world to me and to our guests. So,
Madeline, you've been one who's always been kind of kicking me in the butt to keep trying to go forward better. And I've had so many opportunities through you, and even going into last century, that, the thrill is mine. And thank you. I wish we could be doing this in person in one room, but, at least we're all comfortable at home, right?
So at least we're all comfortable at home and we can see each other. I'm unmuting for 1 minute. Hi, everyone. If you want to make a little bit of noise for 1 sec, and then we'll start tasting together. If you look in the chat room, the order of the wines is listed. If you have all 4 of them, Pinot Blanc, Luthier, Blaufrankisch, and yes, we haven't lost it, but we're doing the Riesling last, and Bryan and I will explain our insanity a little bit later, but the punchline is it's got a little skosh of sweetness to it. So we thought after the red. I'm doing it, I think, so that everyone can unmute themselves if you want to make a comment, but then if you can remember to mute yourself afterwards, just so some people get more annoyed than others when it comes to background noise. Fair enough? Good.
If my drummer shows up, that'll be terrible. So.
Oh, no, that'd be cool. But we need to wait at least 20 minutes so we all drink a little wine before he does that. And then we won't mind at all. We'll just get up and dance. So welcome, old friends and new, as we continue in these, we're getting used to the new normal, I guess, except for parents who are trying to figure out schooling for their kids. And that includes you too, right, Bryan?
Yes, we have 2 kids, 12 and 15, and they're in different schools. So we have 2 different things happening between the 2 schools. And fortunately, my wife is a professional educator, and she is fielding all of that. And I'm deferring to her judgment.
And you're not. So hallelujah to that.
Right.
Yes, but parents really are great heroes right now, trying to figure it all out. Anyone who's working is a hero in my book too, because again, we're all either throwing spaghetti against the wall or making lemonade, but I'm thrilled that they can keep in touch like this. It's very nice indeed. It's thrilling for me because I miss everyone a lot. And today we've got a dear friend joining us, Bryan Ulbrich. If I say the name, most people in the trade who, admit Michigan makes wine well worth paying attention to, and that includes Michiganders, and many guests will immediately think up north. which is, you know, the way we telegraph Leelanau, Old Mission Peninsula is in Traverse City. But I don't even remember where we met, Bryan, but it's been a sweet journey the whole way, because I've always found you so accessible, easy to talk to. And thank you. You give me way too much credit for any direction I may have given you by accident, but
Hardly.
all I care about is from the time I was at the London Chop House, which was in the mid 80s, I was, you know, pouring Michigan wine by the glass. But the difference in those days was you really had to vet them, because I didn't want my, you know, my guests who were enjoying this Cosmic Class wine list to say to me, this is good for Michigan wine. I just wanted them to say this is good wine.
Amen.
Isn't that the God's
That has been a guiding feature of my career, is that good for Michigan wine. I wanted to move that away so much. And the thing that we've always driven for up here, my colleagues and I, is that we want to just show up at any tasting and be able to trade bottle for bottle with winemakers from around the world and just talk about the wine, not have to qualify it. It's good for this, or it's, oh, wow, that's surprising. You know, be surprised by the wine, but not because things are impossible or you think they're impossible. And Michigan has proven that.
And, you know, one of the first people I had to thank, and I know you'll agree with me, is Larry Mobby, because I remember being at the Chop House and pouring his Blanc de Blanc very quietly as a non-vintage champagne, you know, at receptions. And people
sneaking it in.
Oh, this is nice, you know, right? And I would proudly show the bottle. And I was going to say the big problem now, it's a challenge, is that there's so many good wines being produced in Michigan, and not just up north. But I think that I love the fact that we're being focused on you today, because, you know, standing behind you are your family, your staff, and 18 growers who you champion. And I just find that so thrilling. And I didn't know until recently, so thank you for educating me by, you know, making me stare at a map, that you don't use growers on Leelanau Peninsula. Is that intentional?
Well, we have in the past. There's been, unfortunately, there's been a couple of deaths, and farms have sold and traded hands, and things have changed. So we're not actively avoiding Leelanau. It's just we're temporarily not involved. However, we are going to be producing a Gamay from Leelanau Peninsula from the last vintage. It's in the barrels, and tomorrow I'm hoping to begin the process of thinking about blending that. So we'll be back from the Leelanau pretty quickly.
So it's no statement. It just is, you know.
No, and the two vineyards that we've had in the past, they're long stories, so we don't have to go into it now, but I miss them, and they're definitely part of our heritage and how we started. And so, yeah, Leelanau is dear to us for sure.
We had the question about where did Left Foot come from, and I'm going to let you tell that, and also tell us if you would call yourself still a left foot, because I know I am. The only place where I'm coordinated is on the floor of a dining room.
Wow, that's more than I got. Yeah, when I was a kid, my left foot used to naturally turn inward when I'd pick my leg up, and if I didn't think about it and straighten it out, I would start running impulsively and end up tripping and falling down. And somehow it became a neighborhood nickname. I grew up in a tight little neighborhood, and I always blame my mom. She blames grandpa. But through the whole process, we had this name that we had picked out when we were building the winery. It was very important, and it was actually a Greek word, kairos, for like a timing. And
what does it mean?
Yeah, well, it's when the window, it's timing, but when the window opens that you choose to go through it and actually make it actually happen. And so I felt very good about this, and I went to register the name with the federal government, and it was taken like 2 weeks prior. So I didn't have timing, so I didn't deserve the name Kairos. And so we ended up, picking Left Foot Charley.
I think first of all, it's easy to remember.
Yep.
And I think it reflects the playfulness of your spirit and also the lack of ego, you know.
Well, and it's sometimes, you know, it's been a challenge in a way because sometimes people don't take us seriously because it's a playful name. But I think the wine gets us across that line. And when people do try them, then that's when they realize, oh, wait, there's something else going on here. And wine should be fun. And that's how we approach things. So
I'm going to start flipping through a few pictures, but this just reminded me that I shouldn't take for granted that people know where you're located. So actually the winery and the tasting room are both in Traverse City, correct? The tasting room is in the Asylum. And I love the fact that you call your tasting room in the style of an Austrian the Herriger, which is where they show all the new wine, right?
Yeah, it's you know, we're bringing the vineyards into an urban or a city setting. The village where we're at it's beautiful because it's landscaped and it's woods and old buildings, so it feels old world. We have a little bit of a industrial facility, but we also have our barrel room out back that we've just opened up, which was built in 1900 and has all of the trappings of old world wine drinking. I was just leaving there to come here, and it looks so beautiful. Everybody out there tasting wine among these old buildings nestled into the hills. And so we have a couple different environments, and it's a big part of the community where we're at. There's the community rallied to save the buildings, and so you have, you know, coffee and restaurants and different income levels living together, artists and offices, and it's a fantastic place.
And Amanda Danielson has the restaurant there, correct?
Yeah, Trattoria Stella.
Yeah,
They were some of the very first tenants, residents there, and have really guided Traverse City towards taking ourselves seriously, but also recognizing that we have a responsibility to bring, you know, results to people, not just expect because we think we're, you know, cool that we're going to make it happen. We've the diligence of customer service and what goes into the vineyards comes through in all around, and that's where Traverse City and both peninsulas and the outlying areas that are growing as well. That's where the quality shift, when you talk about so many good Michigan wines, it's because of what's gone into the vineyards in the last 20 years or 30 years, 40 years to improve the quality of the fruit. And then with that has come investments in the wineries, which has really brought the things together. And right now we are definitely at the rising zenith part of where this industry is going. It's very exciting. That's
fantastic to hear. And apples played big into your organization because there was a period of time due to a vintage or two that were less than desirable that you had to make cider. But whose hand is that? Is that your daughter's hand?
Yep, that's Ella's hand reaching up for an apple. That's out at Uncle John's cider mill.
Oh, and there she is when she was a little girl, correct?
Yeah, that's the Riesling vineyard that started Left Foot. I traded vineyard services for barn space so I could start making wine. And that was prior to her even being born, but she was probably, 3 or 4 years old there. And we were out sampling grapes that day, and I had my camera with me. And that photo there gives me, definitely gets the tears.
Oh, I love it. And your other child?
She's 15 now.
Oh my God. And your other child is a son, is that correct?
Yeah, Aaron, and now he's actually designing our next Blaufrankisch label. So
wow.
That will be coming out this fall. So they are both in their own ways contributing, and obviously keep my fire going. So
is your wife Jen still involved?
Yep, Jen handles all of the real stuff that's important. That means getting everybody paid and making sure that the money goes in and out in the proper direction. So she's handling all of that side of it, and it's the thankless job. One of the things with COVID that was completely stressful was we had this fear of laying people off, and the work that she put in to work with all the different government opportunities and work with our staff and our banks and CPAs to coordinate it all was what kept us going.
And you didn't lay people off?
We chose to lay a couple people off for some select reasons. Like one was maternity leave, so there was an opportunity to help out in that sense. We did try to redirect, so we had our cellar staff started working in vineyards because it was pruning time, so that was advantageous in that sense. And we did keep our core staff going as much as we could.
Bravo!
So
oh,
it
bravo!
was tough, and everybody is back now that wants to be back, and we're hiring. So.
You know, I was talking to Brian. I want to encourage everyone to start sipping, by the way. Per usual, you know my style. There's no wine police. I'm sitting here sipping on the Pinot Blanc, and we're going to actually talk through a bit of geography and some of these vineyard owners to hear their stories. So we won't get to the wine for a little while. So start tasting. You're all practiced at tasting, and then Brian and I can talk about the wine specifically. Does that sound like a plot?
Sounds good.
what was I going to say? You and I were, oh yes, I asked you how things are going, and you said you have made lemonade in a really exuberant way, where you're very pleased with your emphasis on service and the type of directed tastings you're doing at the tasting room, correct? To encourage everyone to come up.
Yeah, so we had to move outside. Instead of having the walk-up bar service and doing the 1 ounce tastings, we've moved to table service. And it's been a really interesting opportunity, even with the masks and all the protocols. We feel like we're actually having more connection with customers right now. And our staff really rose to the opportunity. And what we're finding is we like it a lot better. We feel like we're getting more communication with customers, and in a way that's presenting the wines a little bit more the way that you actually drink wines, instead of, running shots. It's actually, we're doing flights of 4 or wine by the glass. But yeah, it's worked out to the point where we actually don't want to change. We're not striving to get back to something. We feel like we found something that's a better way of talking about our wines and sharing them. So
What could be better than that?
yeah, it's been fortunate. And the crew I've got around me is amazing. So I can't say enough about them.
I've got a couple people you got people still joining, which is just great. I wanted to put this map up because I always like to state the obvious. I mean, we're used to staring at the mittens, right? But today we're talking about here. We're talking about the Leelanau Peninsula, Old Mission Peninsula. I can't believe we have an appellation called Tip of the Mitt, but maybe I'm just old-fashioned. It's cute, And then here we go. These are most of the vineyards that you're sourcing grapes from are on Old Mission, with a couple. Where are we here, Bryan?
So yeah, Old Mission's where I cut my teeth. I started working out there in the mid 90s. And so I know that area well. That's where most of my relationships were established. But over time, we started to work in Antrim County. And then if you look way on the lower left, that's Benzie County, a really interesting site. And we're going to be tasting some Benzie County today with that Blaufrankisch. One of the things on that previous map where you see the disconnect between Fenville and Leelanau Peninsula, between 1 and 2 there, right. I believe in time you're going to see a strip of red going down, or whatever color is chosen to go down the shoreline.
No kidding. Growers who are doing that? Very cool.
Fantastic fruit growing region there. And that is an expansion area that I'm excited about. And Benzie County fits into that for sure.
That's great. And what will that be called?
Oh, I don't know. It's not even to that point yet. It's more trying to get the idea that some of the crops there that may be struggling in the different commodity markets that are out there may benefit. And there's definitely good land there. The lake effect continues all the way down. And the fact that they're not connected yet is really fascinating, because that shows how much potential growth there is for our area. So
the short version of the lake effect, do you mind giving us that? The postage stamp version
so
of the lake
deep.
effect?
The water's deep, it's churning. We're getting constant temperature influences from the water. The most simplistic kind of base way is that, during the course of the summer, the water's heating up. It's better to swim in August than it is in May, right? And so the water is getting warmer, and that warmth lingers into the fall, which, as cold air starts to move in from Canada or the West, we have a little buffer. That warm water is kind of bubbling up and allowing the cold to move over the top, which gives us a little extension in the back end of the season. And that's the key part where we can get some ripeness. Conversely, then in the summertime or the wintertime, it cools down. And so in the spring, when everything wants to grow, we have a chilling effect, which kind of suppresses the growth at a time when we have frost cycles happening back and forth. And so one of the advantages has been that by having a later bud break, we avoid some of the killing frost. Not always, but often the frost will hit. So it delays the start. So we basically just shift our season slightly. And that's some of the challenges of growing. I mean, it's where we're doing this is not an obvious thing. The fact that guys like Larry and, Ed O'Keefe and Bernie Rink started putting fruit in our area was kind of silly in a way, but they were right. Their theories were right, and it's proving out. And now that we've been able to kind of have a couple generations moving forward, we're seeing those benefits.
Well, I love how the lake effect gives you a hug at the beginning and a hug at the end, right?
Yeah, and then again, we have all that snowfall, so the lake is putting out, we're getting lake effect snow, so that's blanketing the vineyards in the winter. So when it gets really cold, we're getting some insulation there.
I just started
Hey, Tom.
tasting the Luthier, by the way, and you know, if the folks who are on with us want to gently flip back and forth between wines, I sure won't discourage them. But I have to say, Pinot Blanc to Luthier is a gorgeous transition, and that Luthier, I can't wait to talk about it because I have no frame of reference for it, but it's delicious.
So what's fun about these two wines side by side? So Pinot Blanc was first planted in 1995. I was fortunate to be part of that first vineyard at the Island View, which is our kind of flagship vineyard. We've since planted more, and other wineries has as well. It's a very good grape for the area. You get those beautiful pure apple, clean fruit tones. The Pinot Blanc that you have there that we're tasting is kind of built around a short lees time. We're doing a very simplistic winemaking. It's a quick press. We're trying to augment the fruit characteristics in this whole process. The Luthier is a blend. And what we're doing, we have Pinot Blanc, Auxerrois, Chardonnay, and Pinot Gris individually fermented in oak. And in this winemaking philosophy, we're thinking more about the yeast contributions. We're letting them ride with the yeast for 9 months. They're old barrels, so you're getting some of that oxidation in the aging process, a little bit of wood tones in there, but that integration with the yeast and the wine over the course of time gives you a broad fatness in the wine.
Oh, the mouthfeel is spectacular. It's like drinking satin, and it's got weight, and it's got an illusion of sweetness from the fruit, but no actual sweetness. So I love the way it feels.
And that's what some of the fun of winemaking. We don't have ingredients. We're not, putting together components to make something taste the way. We're trying to pull characteristics out or allow things to happen that we're seeing in the fruit. And when you get these two types of wines, could go in either direction. We could make Luthier taste like the first Pinot Blanc, but we're finding certain characteristics through that blend and then obviously through the yeast aging. And that's really the fun of winemaking. We're getting close to harvest right now. It's part of the excitement of what can we do this next vintage. We're not locked into any recipes, so we're just going to see what we get, respond, and then make some wines. The thing I will say about the mouthfeel on the Luthier that's important is when you think about a yeast cell, it's an ovoid shape. It's porous. It is using the membrane almost as a filter in and out as it's growing and multiplying and living. But as it's starting to die, the treatment of the yeast is really important. And this goes to sparkling wine as well. But if you allow the yeast just to kind of crash out and die, they will, like eggs, break open and everything gets released. Through a kind of, I don't want to say proper, but through an aging process that's controlled and monitored, we can allow those yeast to kind of just collapse. And the qualities that we want out of the yeast filter through their membranes and get into the wine. That's where you get that silkiness, that richness, without the negative qualities that a yeast could actually give you, which would be.
Are you stirring or just letting the wine sit on the leaves?
We stir frequently in the early stages. So during fermentation and shortly after, we're pretty active on stirring. After January, February, we start to slow down, and then we start to become very minimalist on how we treat that. And part of that is because we want them to kind of just settle down and fall out and allow that process to kind of find the wine, if you will, so that we can rack and then we have a clean wine we're dealing with.
So just to backtrack for a minute, when we're talking about lees, we're talking about spent yeast cells. When we're talking about stirring, you'll hear wine people talk about bâtonnage. When you talk about the wine sitting in contact with the spent yeast after fermentation, right, that's lees contact. And I just like to, I try not to make the mistake that everyone speaks our language, and I don't speak winemaking nearly as fluently as Bryan does. But there's no reason why people who are maybe more practiced in tasting and drinking than I am should speak the language of someone who's on this side of buying and selling wine. So thank you for letting me overstate that. Does anyone want to, before we start looking and meeting the vineyard owners and the vineyard managers, does anyone want to comment on the Pinot Blanc or the Luthier? Because I just love those two wines juxtaposed next to each other. They're very different in style and mouthfeel and flavor. Anybody want to, I know I've got some colleagues out there who can be expressive if they feel like it, and some guests who will do that if they've had a little bit of wine to sip on. Yes? You can unmute yourself. I think I've permitted that. Anyone want to speak up? Or are you all being, oh, Yasmina.
The Pinot Blanc is amazing. I love it. It's such a good summer wine, and we live on the lake. I just love how simple it is. It's really good. It's a really good wine.
It's simple in the best sense, isn't it? It's balanced.
It's simple. It's balanced. I haven't yet tasted the other one yet, so but the Pinot Blanc is great.
Okay.
And Pinot Blanc loves Michigan. It grows so well here, and it's distinct here. It's one of these grapes that actually shows off terroir in the best sense that when you taste a Michigan Pinot Blanc, it's not like Pinot Blancs from elsewhere. It is giving its own signature based on our climate. And I think it's one of the grapes that should be well more known around the world. And we have been very active in that. And it's definitely our most known grape for Left Foot. And it's fun to see other wineries making it now too, because there's so much good Pinot Blanc being grown in our area. It's good for the farm, good for the winery.
Is there as much Pinot Blanc as Pinot Gris or vice versa?
Probably not. No, I don't know the stats. It's got to be a lot less, but it's versatile in blending, but it's also versatile on the farm. Like farmers can actually do well with this variety. It ripens. They can crop it well. So it's not asking, to reduce the crop to one cluster per vine just so you can get something that tastes good. This likes it here. It's a natural fit.
Excellent. It's at home. Jen, I see you had seen you had unmuted yourself. Did you want to say something or?
Yeah, I grabbed the 2018 Pinot Blanc, and there's just this bright electric green apple and pear, but the sneaky thing that I found was there's this richness that's just kind of holding on to the palate. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you could age this. And there might be a Pinot Blanc from 2012 in my cellar right now, but I think that richness and that texture quality that I'm just kind of feeling as it's holding on to my palate, I think that's just really age worthy. But it's so bright and kinetic right now that I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, fantastic word, kinetic. Thank you. And I think Brian is very happy that that you think that you can forget about it for a year or two and it won't do it any harm, right?
I am, and I'm happy to see Jen. I haven't seen you in a long time, so it's good to see your face again. But yeah, they do age well, and I always wrote them off as, drink them in 2 years. But we've been opening these older wines from 2010. 12 is actually singing right now, and they do have life. There is longevity in these, a surprising amount, and so yeah, there's a lot of versatility there. But
so let's go to these guys. Can you tell us
these
about
guys.
this gentleman? We're going to start talking about the growers, and I will. This is a statistic that stunned me. When you buy from a vineyard, they are selling exclusively to you, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we work together. I always say that they don't own the winery, but they get treated better than the owners do. So they might not disagree or they might not agree. But the idea is that they are part of the winery, and we don't have an estate. We don't have the farm. Jen and I recognized early we were not going to be landowners, and so there was all these small vineyards. So Tom here, for example, he planted Riesling in 1997, 8, 99, and then he did another planting in 2010-ish. So he's really focused, and Pinot Blanc as well. His Pinot Blanc is in the Pinot Blanc we're tasting. He's focused on growing, and he loves wine and he loves work, and we can't tell which he likes more, and that's what I want in a grower.
That's the weathered face in the best possible way.
Yeah,
it's such a smile. You can't.
And that hat he's wearing there, that's a first generation Left Foot Charley hat too. So I've been working with him since he planted, and they do it for the right reasons. He's out there with his family, came in during COVID and helped do all the vineyard work this summer. They've been out there as a team. So his daughter came in from Montana and their kids. And so it's 3 generations working in that vineyard. And when they deliver that fruit, I know what I'm going to be getting is going to be immaculate. And it's almost like all I can do is screw it up. So I better not.
And you don't. And I have to tell everyone, if you're intrigued by these people we're meeting, the website is spectacular. If you go to Left Foot Charley website, and you troll around, you will find the map that that we showed with where the vineyards are located, and little profiles of each of the vineyards, which is just stunning. And these folks, the Engles, are off to the east, and
Yeah.
what's that county off to the east?
Well, it's Grand Traverse County, but they're off Appalachian, and they were some of the early growers that were, experimenting with new regions.
Right here, are they 17 and 18, or where are they?
Just 17.
They're located here.
Yep. So they're right at the northern edge of Grand Traverse County. He's a longtime apple farmer, cherry farmer, and they got into grapes. They were going to build a winery, and we started working together, and we've made one of our great red wines, Cadia, comes from their vineyard. They've been part of Le Caban. They've been part of Missing Spire. We've had some single vineyard Chardonnays from them and Gewürztraminer as well. Sadly, they just retired and have sold their farm. So
what's going to happen now?
I don't know. Let's still handle that in another conversation.
TBD.
Yeah, that's fresh info, but no, they're great, and he's on the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy. He does a lot for this region in terms of pushing land protection and farming forward, and he definitely has been a great partner over the years. I love working with them.
And we're tasting some of these folks. They produce Pinot Blanc.
This is a whole another chapter. Yeah, so Vernor and Margaret, they are partners in the winery. Vernor has the oldest Pinot Blanc vineyard in Michigan. It's like I have said, it's the Island View Vineyard. It's our flagship site. It's only 1 acre. He's a Swiss gentleman, and he takes his vineyard very Swissly. It is perfect, constantly. And he will tell you if you're in there, no, it's not perfect yet. Next year, it will be absolute perfect. And it's just an amazing site. And they have the great story of just working with them in general, like how they harvest. He does all the handwork. They bring in family and friends. They have 19 rows of vines, and they have over 20 or over 30 people that want to pick. So they're getting to the point where they have to limit it because they're not getting enough picking per person. And so it's just the great kind of old world mentality coming into wine. And if you come on a Thursday to Left Foot Charley, he's there, so you can meet him.
You're giving us a sense. It seems to be a terrific community.
Yeah, we're very close friends, and she grows the greatest flowers in the peninsula. You can stop by her flower stand and get a bouquet that will definitely repair any bad decisions you made the night before. So,
yay!
And then Rick and Peggy, they're their neighbors. Literally, their vineyard is 15 feet away from Vernor's vineyard. But we treat it as a separate block. It's Pinot Blanc as well. And he's learning from Vernor how to grow. And Rick and Peggy are just, you can tell right there by her smile how fantastic they are. And their vineyard is, I want to say, we're going into like the 8th year now. So it's starting to get established. We're starting to learn some of the traits and characteristics. Just over the hill from them on the same hillside is Theresa and Gary, who have Pinot Gris. And that's going into our Pinot Grigio, and we do an orange wine out of Pinot Gris that's coming from their vineyard as well.
That's exciting news. Are we going to be able to get our hands on that, or are you making just a drip? This is going to be orange wine that does not smell or taste flawed. I've been promised.
Yes, no, we're doing a 6-month skin contact. It's very traditional. And it'll be out probably mid-October. I just got the label through our label company, and we're going to bottle pretty soon, and it's quite good. So,
what are you calling it? Does it have a proprietary name?
No, just skin fermented Pinot Gris. It's got a beautiful label done by one of our tasting room employees who's an artist, and she's doing a lot of our label work now. So, stay tuned on that one.
So your son let her do that label since he's doing the Blaufrankisch label?
She did this one earlier, but so like, for example, the one that we made recently is one of our wine club wines. So we're doing a lot of small batch wines that are available to the wine club or on site, sort of as not just experiments, but ways to kind of just keep different interest levels going in the winery and playing around and learning more. And so this orange wine thing started off that way, and now it's becoming, I think it's going to become something not massive, but a really interesting facet of what we do.
By the way, everyone's being very restrained and elegant. Remember, you can, if something occurs to you, unmute yourself, and or don't forget the chat room if you want to talk to each other or us. But I want to keep looking at these folks. Now, the people that we've met so far, are most of them located like the Wilsons and the Fredericks and the Kuehnises? Are they located in the middle of the old mission?
Yeah, they're in what I call the heart. So the best landmark is
like here?
Yeah, they're on that cluster right in the center. I'm pointing to it, but you can't. Yeah. Yeah. So that's where the peninsula kind of crests, and you can pretty much grow whatever within reason what you want there. And then down that hill, Island View Road is kind of the marker point. That's where almost all of our vineyards are, not all, but a huge percentage are concentrated. That's where we grow Blaufrankisch, Kerner, Auxerrois, Chardonnay for our sparkling wine, the Pinot Blanc and Pinot Gris, of course. It's a great spot. So it's the best marker is that turnout by Chateau Grand Traverse. Mm-hmm. It's just north of there. And then this character, he might be on this chat. I'm hoping he is. So,
he's with us, do you think?
He might be. He's definitely a patron of the Ann Arbor location. I know that. Bill is fantastic. And Bill and Margaret, she's not in that photo, unfortunately, but they grow Blaufrankisch for us. And
he is on. Hi, Bill. He's there. I see him.
Yeah. So Bill was the winemaker at MSU at the research station, kind of helping guide some of the research and taking their work and putting it into wine form for a few years. And we've been working together, geez, I can't even remember when, I want to say 2005 or so. And he was one that came with me when Leftwood opened up, and he's there. And again, same thing. The reason they love this business is because it results in wine and takes a lot of work and a lot of community. And
does Bill grow the Blaufrankisch for your rosé as well? We just got a question.
No, just the red wines at this point, because so he's got the oldest block that I work with. We planted that in 2001 or 2, and it was kind of a test block to see would this work. Can we grow this grape in this area? And it's thrived. He's got a very distinct character that comes out. Most of what Bill is growing for Blaufrankisch is going into our reserve, which because it's a higher acid site and clone, it needs longer to age. And so we make that one into a little more extended program. We use a different barrel program for his, and it's been kind of where I learned how to make Blaufrankisches off of that site. And it's not even a full acre. So.
Oh, there he is. Bill, say hello.
Hi.
Hey, Bill.
Hi.
How you guys doing?
So
Bill and I we're in a COVID hair contest.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
One of us is going to win.
I know it.
There's
I was
Margaret.
a little different than that photo, but no, I just want to say one thing. It's so great being one of Bryan's growers, and it's a family. We really are a family. I'm getting a little choked up.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's probably the wine doesn't hurt. And when you introduced us to who's sitting next to you?
Oh, that's Margaret.
Hello, Margaret.
Hi.
My better half. But
nice of you to admit. No, we didn't get your name on the picture. I apologize for that.
Well,
So
thanks,
very
Madeline.
nice. Oh no, very nice to meet you both. Thank you so much for being here this evening. It really makes it come alive.
It does.
For me, especially as someone who's been working with wine my entire adult life, when I meet terrific people and the wine is in the glass, the angels are singing. You know, it's like
I agree.
4-dimensional, right? It's just the
It's
best.
a special thing, really.
Yep.
Well,
See it
and
go
Bill
from
is
vineyard to
Bill is
bottle.
probably. I was gonna say Bill's probably the top home winemaker of anyone I've ever tasted. This guy's a great winemaker in his own right. He's also been long-term, part of the whole Village Corner Dick Shear tastings over the years. So he's got some street cred too that he's kind of keeping on the side. But.
I think you've got at least one person lurking in the background who used to work at the Village Corner, Jorge Lopez Chavez, and Rod Johnson is on vacation, and he just had his second granddaughter, and so we'll forgive him for not being here this evening. So cheers to Rod, right, and to Dick and Sally, the Village Corner culture that really nested a lot of terrific wine professionals, some of whom I get to work with. And who do we have next? I have a teeny little picture here of Tom, right?
Yeah, Tom will always shy away from the camera, so he's way in the distance there. That's a Riesling site at the southern end of the peninsula that's very warm, very clay packed. We tend to use that for our dry Rieslings because it builds a little more heat in that site and a little bit lower acidity typically. So we've been working together since 2004, and him and his wife, Lisa, they do all the vineyard work, and, you know, all the pruning and that kind of stuff, and the canopy management themselves as well. And along with their daughters. Yeah, that was a good day. I remember that one.
And this gentleman, there's a little story here, another Riesling friend.
Yeah, we love Jim. Jim experienced his last vintage in 2019. And mid-vintage, right as the grapes were about to be harvested, decided to check out. And so we missed Jim. We are working on a special cuvee for him of the last Riesling. And so he's one too I've been with since 2002, and him and Mim, his wife Mim, have just 1 acre of Riesling and 1 acre of Cab Franc. And so very small sites, and that's pretty much all of these are the story of Leftwood. They're all very small select sites on hillsides around northern Michigan. And so I like to say we're not one estate that has one vineyard manager managing 50 acres. We've got 18 vineyard managers managing, 40 acres or so.
Well, I got to tell you, you have a friend in spirit forever in this gentleman. Looking at his picture,
yeah, he's good,
very special. So, cheers! Here's to Jim and to Mim.
Buddy.
And this was the original Pinot Blanc vineyard. We're still playing with wines 1 and 2. If everyone's got the 4 wines in the background, and we've been talking about them as we go along. This was one of 4 Pinot Blanc vineyards. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes, and you'll see that top of that post says 19, so I wasn't lying about the 19 rows. That's the end row. So that's the original Pinot Blanc vineyard, but right in that neighborhood, we have literally in walking distance 3 Pinot Blanc sites and then there's Tom Scheuerman's is up north a little bit farther. We work into this Pinot Blanc. And the other thing that we're doing, which is kind of fun and very traditional, is we started planting Auxerrois a couple years ago, and we're working a little bit of Auxerrois into the Pinot Blanc blend to give it a little bit of fullness. And so in the one that you have, it's probably about 8%. I don't have the label, but if
I've got it in front of me, and it's got.
If it says Mary Lyons Farm, that's the Auxerrois portion.
And it's 10%. And
10%.
I want to inform us all that Auxerrois, or as the French say, Auxerrois, Auxerrois, is a white varietal that we can originally thank our friend. Oh, I just went brain dead. Who made consistently the most? Charlie Edson, right? Charlie Edson. Made the most recognized and continues to probably in terms of recognizability, Auxerrois. And basically, if you like, to me, and you may not agree, if you like white Burgundy, you like Auxerrois from the hands of people like you and Charlie. But it's a mildly aromatic grape that integrates really well. So it makes sense that you've got it in the Pinot Blanc, correct?
It's very classic in Alsace to have some in. It adds a little bit of fatness. It's a soft, low acid variety. It's another one in our wine club that we did, I think, 1,000 bottles. And so that we do a little bit on its own, but, and it's in this Luthier. It's I think 25% or something in this one.
I've got the back label in front of me on the Luthier, 45% Chardonnay.
45. Oh.
Chardonnay, 28% Pinot Gris, 25% Auxerrois, and 2% Pinot Blanc. So tell us what Luthier means and why you picked this name.
All right, so Luthier, a luthier is a maker of wooden instruments, so violins, mandolins, guitars. That art of using wood to help create music was the inspiration for doing a barrel fermented white wine where we're using the oak. We work directly with 4 coopers from France to build our barrels, and we use them for a long time. I've got barrels that go back to 2002, and we love the old oak quality and how kind of just like you can play a song through multiple violins, but it may sound different out of, you know, different tone woods and stuff. And so we're using the barrel to create the music of the wine, and that's where that inspiration for this wine came from.
I think it's, and the picture on the right was the original label. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep. So I was trying to come up with a label, and that's my mandolin. I threw on the top of the barrel in the back room and somehow grabbed that great photo. And then the other one I took as well, just with an iPhone. That's my great grandfather's violin on the top of a barrel head that's stained red. But what I love about that photo is the way it works. If you look at the violin, it's like somebody's ear. And so it's the listening to the instrument. And that's a play I just love in that wine.
Like this part.
Yeah, it's like the side profile.
Oh, very cool.
So
I want to talk about this wine again because I just adore the mouthfeel of it. And there's a weightness. Do you use natural yeast or do you inoculate? If you don't mind my
that's
getting
a loaded question.
Oh, is it a bad question?
How many hours do we have? No.
No.
So here's the thing. Yeast are everywhere and they're pervasive in the winery. We have some kind of native culture for sure in our winery. Definitely in the vineyards. I've always taken the philosophy that we're not old enough as a region or a building to actually have cultured something that we can rely on. Mm-hmm. But we're in our 13th year in this facility and we're starting to see some trends. And so what we do is we bring the fruit in, we're pressing it, we let it settle. We're very slow about any kind of yeast integration. And so things are starting to happen and we let that happen. And once we can kind of see that the wine is going in the direction we like, I will often and most of the time employ yeast I know to finish the job. But I like to think of it as there's definitely the volunteers that start the fermentation off, and then we introduce. And part of the introducing of yeast into the winery is that I want to build cultures that will morph and change over time, but we're only 16 years old. And so to expect that we can just hope that what's living there is great is naive. And I want to build this over time.
And I wasn't, by the way, natural yeast is not better than cultured yeast. We had a tasting last week with Theresa Heredia from Gary Fair. I intend to send her some of your wines, but I was hesitating because of the heat. And she was very forthcoming in saying that she likes to use mostly cultured yeast because she's dealing with inconsistent temperatures. You know, they can spike all of a sudden. And she doesn't want to compromise the fruit just to make herself feel better about using cultured yeast. So I don't want people to think that that's, it's a question of good or bad. It's a decision. But
what happens with the process that's important on this, and that's what she's talking about with heat is crucial, is that you ultimately want a even fermentation. And so you can utilize cultured yeast in a way that's not dominant. Like there are cultured yeast that will give you very distinct tones, peach tones, apricots, whatever. You can force qualities. A banana is real common. I don't want those things. Those are esters, and that's the yeast were bred to produce those. We're using old world yeast, but we want the fermentations to be very slow and built up, and then we're in a cold environment, so they have to be able to survive in cold temperatures. And so the whole curve of a fermentation should be more of a gentle hill and not a spiking arc. And so if we could get there with not having to purchase yeast, then great. And that I hope that someday we are. But largely what takes over a native fermentation is in a vineyard or is in a winery, especially in our area due to the temperatures when we pick. But so I'm open to it. We're trying to encourage that, but we have a long way to go. That's my kids' job.
Excellent.
So
kids, both of them are going to work with you. Terrific.
Yeah, they get to explore all the yeast I threw around the winery and let those things morph and figure out how they work. So I'm generation 1 of our winery.
So we've got to taste red wine, or I'm going to get physically nudged. So I'm staring at the Blaufrankisch, and I have to tell you something. Everyone, I had all 4 of these in the fridge, and I didn't pull them out until 6 p.m. And so they're all about the same temperature. And I will bet money the Blaufrankisch now is at like, low 50s. And it's wonderful at this temperature, Brian. So Blaufrankisch, can you tell us a little bit about this grape?
So Blaufrankisch, it's Blau means blue, and the Frankish refers to Franconia. So it's kind of the blue grape from Franconia. Widely grown in Germany, but really kind of cultured in Austria. And as we were looking at grapes back in 99 and 2000 of what to plant, one of the problems I kept butting up was if we would bring a Pinot Noir or Merlot to a tasting, the breadth of what people have tasted, they already know those grapes so much. They already were judging them before they could even taste the wine because they had so many Pinots and Merlots. And I wanted something different, like, you know, let's try to experiment a little bit. And Blaufrankisch, I had tasted a few in Ontario and the Finger Lakes. And so we put the experimental vineyard in, was at Bill's place to see how it would do. And it's been a huge success. It's got its own distinct character. I can go into a restaurant anywhere and say, hey, I've got a Blaufrankisch. And if somebody's had Blaufrankisch, they're excited to taste another one. If they haven't, they're like, well, what's that? And then they taste the wine and they have to judge the wine and not their repertoire of, you know, their experience that they've tasted or what, you know, society's told them is how Pinot should taste or whatever. And
Is it fair to say that it's found a home in northern Michigan?
Oh, yeah.
It does very well in Austria and Germany, where it's called, correct me if I'm wrong, Lemberger. It also does well in British Columbia. But I'm curious, you know, how anyone besides me would describe this. I just, I don't know, Brian, how do you describe it? I don't want to launch into my perception of the wine. I'm just enjoying it at the moment.
So it has different faces, and this particular one is our kind of our fruit forward design. So this is grown in a young vineyard on Old Mission, and then we have a block in Benzie County. But we're trying here, kind of like that Pinot Blanc, to augment just the primary fruit quality. So here I get a lot of just crushed black pepper, blueberry, blackberry kind of flavors, kind of medium-bodied palate. They age really well. These will go forever. There's a quality in Blaufrankisch that you see in Syrah as well that allows for just long aging.
Is the acidity all natural on this, I would imagine?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I mean, it's mouth-watering. It's this combination of red and black fruit. There's like this juicy blackcurrant blackberry, but no perceptible oak, you know, depending on what you've done. But I love the fact that if there is wood, it's not interfering with the wine, and I find it spicy, not in a hot sense, but that warm sort of savory and baking spices. It's almost salty. It's got real savory character to it, and this is killer for the family style table. Is this a grower here that we have? Does it come from his vineyard?
A little bit, yes. He's grown some of it. This one's blended, so we have about 30 barrels, and we take most of them go into this wine, and then we reserve some for our reserve style. So yeah, that's John Lyon. This is the Swanson Vineyard, which is a little bit north of Bill's. Beautiful west slope, great site.
This is again, a hell of a site. It's so beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. And he's doing, I mean, that's an old school farming family. They're, 4 generations deep on cherries, apples, all of it through Old Mission's history, and have gotten into grapes recently. And yeah, it's, so the grape itself, all those characteristics you're talking about, the beauty of this is we used 100% old oak. And so it was all in barrels, but it doesn't come off as being woody. And then
are they bigger barrels?
No, actually, these were all just standard barriques, 225 liters. And it doesn't need a lot of fresh oak. For the reserve style, we are using a little bit more new oak, but that's only because those vineyard sites, and Bill's is one of them, is they have a little bit more character and a little bit more need to settle over time. And that oak helps that out. But it's all a combination of used barrels.
So we are finally going to get around to tasting the Riesling. And what was our thinking, you and me, in putting this last? It was the skosh of residual sugar, right?
Yeah, my thought was that I would have had to clean their glass out. So.
That's the practical thing in the tasting room. But You
Because
know,
Riesling deserves a fresh glass.
Riesling deserves a fresh glass. And you and I talked about what Riesling to show at length because, you know, you have a rep for dry Riesling. This is sort of, correct me if I'm wrong, fine herb style with just a kiss of RS, but you seemed really excited about showing this wine.
I love sugar. I love that.
I love it.
One of the great things about Riesling is how it plays with sugar. And so all of our Rieslings, whether they're dry or our late harvest style, they're halted. So we're taking classic Mosel mentality. We're allowing the fermentations to start up in this whole kind of natural thing very slowly. We want slow managed fermentations that we then quietly put to sleep by letting the winery get cold, which is easy in northern Michigan, to leave natural residual sugar. And the whole point of this wine, Le Caban, it sounds like a fancy term, but if you mix the letters up, it just says balance. And that's what we're after.
No,
We're after
kidding.
balance. And that's the purpose of the rocks and the whole thing. And it says it on the back label, but it's a little bit of obtuse. And the point here is that it's not about the sugar or the acid, it's about the wine. And so the two things should fall in line together, and you shouldn't really have to think about either. And we always are in this battle with Riesling and wine drinkers in general about sugar. And they either have a perception that Riesling's sweet or it's not good when it's sweet or whatever, but it's hard to make a Riesling with residual sugar. And we choose obviously our best grapes go into this. And it's with all of them, what you get is a different sugar expression. If you look at grape juice, I'm just going to get a little geeky right now, but if you look at grape juice, juice comes to us as it's 50% glucose, 50% fructose. And the yeast prefer glucose. So if you let a wine ferment totally dry, you'll have 0 sugar. You add sugar back, you'll have 50% glucose, 50% fructose. If you stop the fermentation, the yeast chews glucose, and by the end of the fermentation, there's a high percentage of fructose, which changes the palate perception. It changes the interactions with the acid and gives you a different kind of revelation of how the sugar works. So it doesn't come off as cloying or sugary. It comes off as integrated with the acid. It tastes like fresh fruit. And we work so hard to grow these fruit characteristics. I want to express that in this wine. And that's the best way to do it. And it's true for all of our Rieslings, but this one is the one that it's not vineyard specific, it's blend specific. And so we're really trying to target a balance point.
I want to talk to it as wine. First of all, it's utterly dangerous because there's no perception of alcohol. It's under 10%, right? At least that's what it says on the label.
That's true.
For those of you who think that sugar is lesser or dumbed down the wine, this is just enough unfermented grape sugar to add to the natural illusion of sweetness that Riesling carries. The acidity just surges at the end, so it's fruity tart in a major way. It's just as mouth-watering. Actually, it's more mouth-watering than the Pinot Blanc, which makes sense because acidity, has thrilling. Riesling has thrilling acidity. It also has this great minerality. I like to make a little joke that I think that Riesling carries a pocket of rocks around with it wherever it goes. So regardless of whether it's grown, there you go, there are the rocks, the Eden Valley or Austria or the Mosel. But this reminds me of a Mosel fine herb, which is just sort of to the left of Cabernet in terms of a whisper of sweetness. So hopefully that's an okay association with you. Those of you who love hot, spicy food and you put a nice little chill on this, it will calm your palate down and show its complexity through difficult cuisine. But if you go to the nose, Bryan, it's all the classic stuff: green apple, apricot, peaches. It's just beautiful.
It's only started too. So this is an 18, and it's just opening up. And last night I was tasting, I think Dave Boss might be on. So Dave is a viticulturist, was with Gergich for a long time, and is now in northern Michigan. And we were tasting a 2007, technically late harvest Riesling, loaded with sugar, but it tasted dry and full because these age really well. And so when you're looking at laying wines down, and I'm not suggesting don't drink this now, get enough so you can drink some now and then drink it later, but those sugars, they move over time. They don't actually change, but they integrate differently. And it's impossible to describe without tasting them. But when you taste the old wines of Germany, often there is residual sugar, and it's not to soften the wine. It's
or to hide anything.
Yeah, it's to bring the volume out. This is what we grow. We grow sugar. So why don't we play with it more? Why don't we let people taste it? If the yeast get it all, I don't know. Not all wines are great with being dry, and so
I'm trolling around looking for Mr. Boss. Is he there? Are you there? You want to unmute and say hello since we're talking about you? And if you,
he might not have checked in. I thought he was gonna. But.
I thought he. No, I saw him earlier, but you know, I'd like to welcome anyone to make comments on both the Blaufrankisch and the Caban Riesling, because we've been chattering away. Anyone want to weigh in on how the wine's showing? Should I put my my buddies Mike and Carrie and Jorge on the spot, or Marshall, unless someone else wants to jump in?
I mean, we can jump in. I am seriously enjoying these wines, and the Blaufrankisch, I was just telling Mikey, is absolutely gorgeous.
This is Carrie.
Hi.
Hi, Carrie.
I promise I'm a real person. I grew up in Frankfurt, so the cool thing about Blaufrankisch being from Benzie County is that, you know, I mean, and hi to the MacDonalds. I haven't seen you since West End, but hi. But it's really cool because it just smells like the lilacs from my parents' yard, and it has that like really pretty, like fresh black cherry. There's a little bit of like a chai component to it. It's just, I mean, all the wines have been absolutely spectacular.
You're poetic. I mean, Carrie, you know, feels very comfortable on the floor of a restaurant, though she's not on one at the moment. So she's comfy coming up with evocative descriptions on the fly. And I admire your ability to do that.
I mean,
So
they've
Carrie,
all been gorgeous.
Are you a Panther?
I am a Panther.
All right, that's where you get that quality. Yep.
Yep, class of 98. So.
All right, I have a bunch of family in Arcadia, so.
Oh, you do? Okay, so you get it. You're familiar.
Anyone else want to jump in on the Riesling or the Blaufrankisch? I got a couple more pictures to show, so I'll pull them up, because one of them really made Brian very happy. But correct me if I'm wrong. These are these the folks who that provide some of the Riesling? Tell us about the Chown family.
On the back label of this wine, it says Chateau Fiasco, and that's Chateau Fiasco. So Glenn Chown, he's the president of the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy and dedicates all he does to preserving land. They have a very old family farm. This is half an acre, so it's only 700 plants. They treat it as their heritage for their family and like kind of what they're passing on to the kids. And so this is their first harvest, and those kids are picking those grapes, doing the real work of
and here they are, right?
Yeah. And it wasn't this 18, but because those kids are a lot older now, but yeah, this is what we're dealing with Left Foot. This is what we want and who we're trying to, you know, have these conversations with. And there's one of my
tell
favorite
us about this
pictures.
You love this
so
picture,
Riesling, this is in the Seventh Hill Farm. What I love about that is that's morning dew falling off of the berries there. And you know, we have this, it's happening right now. We're having these, today was 85 and tonight it's going to be in the 50s, and we're starting these swings of temperature changes, and in the morning the grapes are covered in dew and they're cool, and then they have the chance to dry out and warm up during the day, and that's what preserves that sugar acid balance in the fruit that everybody seeks in wine world.
Now, what you wanted me to point out botrytis in this picture, correct?
If you were able to zoom in on up the trunk to the right, you can start to see a bit of. Yep, it's starting to turn a little bit purplish and brown. That is the grapes actually starting to desiccate, and they're losing water and starting to shrivel. There could be a little bit of mold starting on there, and that's what we're looking at with noble rot. Grapes in that avenue right there, if you pick those, would be in that late Cabernet Spätlese level. If you let it go a little bit further, you'd be in Spätlese, and then you go a little farther, you're in Auslese, and then the rest go extreme from there.
That's a beautiful shot. Oh, this is, what is this? Tell us what this is.
So there's that little drapey thing on the
Yeah.
poster. That's Linda. She likes to make kind of artistic scarecrows for the vineyard because birds are one of our nemesis. You'll see in our logos around our labels, there's always birds kind of hanging on the edges because we're aware that we're not the only ones who want the grapes. You know, there's others after them, and we have to kind of work with and fight off some of the predators. But so she builds these beautiful scarecrows and puts up weird.
So this is a deflated scarecrow.
Yeah, that one's actually deflated, but if you look closely, it was at one point all stretched out, and so it's kind of fun to look at the different tacks that people use, and she's very artistic. So it's kind of like an art walk when you go through the vineyard.
Now we aren't tasting Pinot Gris, but you have some shots of Pinot Gris that are unbelievable. Well, everyone, look at this grape in the middle. Tell us about this grape, Bryan.
So in the Luthier, there's quite a bit of Pinot Gris. So Pinot Gris is a chimeric clone. Pinot Gris is the vector that creates Pinot Noir and Pinot Blanc, and Pinot Meunier for that matter. So in a given year, a vine can shift itself genetically to Pinot Noir or to Pinot Blanc. And here's an example of a cluster that is, 50-50. But if you look at that one berry, it's completely down the middle, half Pinot Gris, half Pinot Blanc. And so when the old days, you imagine a French vigneron's out there and he's working, he sees these black grapes coming off of the Pinot Gris, took a cutting, stuck it in the ground, and created Pinot Noir. And same with Pinot Blanc. And that's where those clones are derived from. And it's every year it happens.
And this is Pinot Gris. So actually, when you see Pinot Gris, it's not uncommon to catch a little bit of a copper hue if they haven't been quick enough to separate the juice from the skins, correct?
Yeah, and anymore, we're doing more and more skin contact to try to exaggerate that quality.
And I love this. What they're sorting the Pinots here, right?
That's Pinot Gris as well. Yep, coming up at harvest. So
but some of the white grapes are in here too.
That would be from that chimeric reaction where that's from a vine that just half of it went Pinot Blanc probably. So yeah, harvest is coming up. We encourage you to come and see us. You can watch guys sorting fruit and all that fun stuff.
Oh no! And tell us about this guy. Was this an important vehicle for you?
Yeah, baby blue. So that was my original. When I kind of moved this direction to have a winery, I decided I had to have a pickup, and that's a '76 Ford F100. I named Baby Blue after the Dylan tune, and she was great. I got her to a better home though, so she got completely restored by another guy.
Oh, and so she's still around, and she's in good shape.
I still see her. Yeah, she'll pull in every once in a while. And, yeah, she's in good shape. So I miss that truck.
So we can come visit you, correct?
Please. That's what we need. We need
reservations. Should we make reservations?
Yes, especially now. So most everything we're doing is outside, and if you have a reservation, we will be prepared to show you what we do best. We do have walk-up availability, but yeah, reservations are definitely appreciated. We've gone 100% to table service now. We have two options. We have that tasting room there, which is our main winery building.
And this is all, you told me that this has grown to the point where you have to push the greenery away to get into the restaurant.
Oh yeah, the green wall is full now. That was a sound deadening technique. So we have a big full green wall going, and we have all of our wines down there. And then up in our barrel room, which is where we store all of our barrels, that place, that was built in the 1900s. We have a new patio out there where we're doing reserve tastings, some wine club stuff, but you can taste wines that are no longer available or only made in small batches. And we have different options there for guided tastings and food with Trattoria Stella and stuff like that. So either way, and you could do both. That's the other fun part. It's like two different experiences.
So California had started on harvest. Teresa Heredia was like had hands full, and then the fires started too in Napa and Sonoma. So they've got yet another challenge. But you are harvesting when, in a couple of weeks? Do you think?
Hard to say. I would say that at this point we're about September 15th. Sparkling wine should start, and then we'll start rolling in probably a few weeks later on Pinot Gris. So it'll be pretty normal, I think, for us, mid-September.
And anyone can make reservations in the barrel room, the question's being asked.
Yes, everything's online. So it's very easy to make a reservation. And then we send you friendly reminders and all that. So.
We have a question if anyone wants to weigh in here, but Bryan, I know I love to eat. I bet money you like to eat too. What do you love to eat with Blaufrankisch? Do you have a favorite kind of food?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I mean, I think to me, it comes off sort of Côte du Rhône-esque in its accessibility and its welcoming character. I don't think it dictates a particular kind of cuisine.
I want to say something.
Yes, please.
I want to say something. So I'm having leftover Thai that is really spicy. And the wine that I brought home was a Blaufrankisch because I love Blaufrankisch. And I think it's Michigan's up and coming grape. And I think, thank you for saying that, Bryan. I think it's going to be amazingly important in the Michigan industry. I'm having a very spicy Thai dish with this, and it's great. And my nose is running. My nose is running. I'm sorry if I'm doing this constantly, but it's running. It's spicy, and it's great. And just so you know, I'm not lying. Let's see.
There you go. Oh, we believe you. Jorge is a very accomplished chef, and he is also a friend and a colleague who is the wine team leader at the Ann Arbor North Campus store. And we also have Mike Pfeiffer on, who's loosely related to Carrie, who was saying hello earlier. And he is the wine team leader at Ann Arbor North Campus. Actually, they married was it a couple of years ago? And I was in downtown Detroit at a tasting, and you just walked away from your wedding and said hello.
Yeah, it was last year, actually. So a year ago, June 24th.
You're still newlyweds. Well, a slightly belated happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Hey, you're always newlyweds. Stay newlyweds.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The best way to roll.
I mean, I think
so on the spicy food thing, Jorge, that's funny because when Madeline asked that, my wife makes this pork shoulder, like slow cooked jalapeno taco type thing that we have, and I love that with the Blaufrankisch. It's got just enough heat, a little bit of fat from the pork, and all the other accoutrements go in. And I agree. I think that thing can handle a little bit of heat.
Or a lot.
Or a lot.
Yeah, even better.
You know, there are general suggestions, but the wine is smarter than we are. And what I always like to do is to put 2 or 3 different wines on the table that have very different profiles, and give everyone 2 or 3 glasses and let them play with whatever's on the table, you know, because what we think is going to work and what actually works are not always the same thing. Oh, they're always the same thing. Something that's really come home to me after many years of being in the wine business, that we always used to say you do white before red, light before rich. But I find, like, if you pivot back to a simpler, milder wine, it often pops in relief to something that's heavier, more alcoholic, more palate coating. Anyone want to make any more comments or have any questions before Bryan, before we let him go play the drums or, you know, eat Jen's tacos? You know, you've had over 30 people who were thrilled to have your company. I can't tell you how happy I am that we were able to not break bread together, but clink glasses. And I'm going to hang out for a little while. Nobody has to go away, but I will not be serving Plum Market if I don't mention next week's tasting, which is we are going to Kermit Lynch Imports. We're going to actually give you the option. It's an option of 6 wines, but we'll give you a discount on 3 wines or more. You can go eeny meeny. We just got a slew of Kermit Lynch French imports and brand new vintages, and we're going to tie in our Chicago store as well. So it should be on the website now, I think, and that's next week, Thursday the 27th. And then I'm going to take a week and a half off. I hope all y'all don't mind. So we are going to have a little bit of a hiatus between Kermit Lynch, and then I think our next one is the 2nd week in September. And we are going to do an all Nebbiolo tasting with the dude who directs Produttori del Barbaresco. How cool is that? That's going to be Aldo Vaca, and Produttori is at September 11th. Produttori is arguably one of the 1 or 2 very best cooperative wineries on the planet. All they make is Nebbiolo. So we're going to taste, Nebbiolo Langhe, Barbaresco, and then Cru Barbaresco. But
bring out the cheese.
Oh, or lamb, or truffles and polenta or something, Well, you've got a lot of loving friends downstate, Brian.
We love downstate.
Yes, Robin. And
No, it's Norman. Yeah.
Hi,
Hey,
Norman.
can't you tell our voices apart?
You have merged. Yeah.
I like this. I think we should do it again in half a year. Shouldn't be a long gap between Michigan wines.
Okay.
Yeah, they're really surprisingly good and enjoyable.
Cheers
That's
to
what
that.
I love to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would love to taste these in 6 months. Or bring in a cohort too and maybe have a couple other ones because
there's a thought.
Following our beloved president, just keep the foreigners out.
Oh, we're not going to go there. we have the coziness
You have to keep me out too. Yeah.
quality wine hugging us internally, But if you want to get on in about 6 months or so with one of your buddies, we're happy to do that. Maybe give some thought, Brian, to who you'd like to collaborate with. But thank you for being a spectacular ambassador for Michigan, and keep going. You're on a vertical climb, and you are excited about Michigan wine in general, correct?
Yes.
We can look forward to high quality continuing.
even better. I mean,
we've even got a vineyard in Detroit, I see on the commercials.
Yes, but they're not quite at his level yet.
Yeah.
No.
More like a breakfast wine.
I hear though that they're getting some fruit from up north, so that might help. This might be vineyard sourcing might be the key. But
well, I can't wait to see some of the vineyards being planted on up and down that west coast. That's thrilling. I hadn't heard that before. So I hope you encourage them to plant more Blaufrankisch.
yeah, well, as long as people keep drinking Michigan wine, we have to make more. So tell your friends.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So we do that. Somebody asked me, all y'all, am I connected to North Carolina? I have been corrected by people who work and live in the South that if one person is y'all, but two people are all y'all. So I've got it down. And I want to wish everyone continued good health and lighthearted spirit. And so we always finish by saying, to your good health or bye in whatever language you feel like. So the only ones that always come to my mind are yasu, which is hello, goodbye, and to your health in Greek, and sante, and what do we say in Israel? Somebody reminded me.
L'chaim.
L'chaim, yes. L'chaim.
And the Swiss say Prost.
Prost, wonderful.
Prost. And tot ziens in South Africa.
Say it again. Oh, skull. What do you say?
Tot
ziens. Okay, I'm sure I slaughtered that.
Salud.
Salud.
Oh,
Salud.
salud. Yes, in Peru. Salud in Peru.
United States. In the United States.
Chin chin.
Down by.
Take good care, everyone. Chin chin.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Delightful. Hopefully you enjoyed yourselves.
Yes.
All the best. Brian, take care.
And
Thank you.
Thank you very much.